If you saw the title, you're clicking on this video, you are here to hear my story about why I gave my life to Jesus. There you go. Y'all like the glasses? They're new. They're cute. Y'all, let me tell you, the past 2 weeks have been anything but ordinary in my life personally. Past 3 weeks, past month, past 2 months. I mean, we could go all the way back. We could go all the way back to when I was born. Because that's really when I had my first testimony, which is kind of what I want to talk to you guys about. I just want to share with you, like, why I gave my life to Christ. I just want to share with you what happened in my life that made me literally just stop every sin that I was doing and completely do a full 360 on my life and just give my life to Christ and do exactly what we were put on this earth to do, is what I believe. Now, let me also preface that these are my beliefs. This is my religion. Has always been my religion. If you're clicking on this video, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, okay. So let's just get right into it. Let's just get right into the whole point of this video, which is to tell you what happened. Like, what's been going on in my life that made me do this whole full switch? Because, like, y'all know in the past couple videos I've been talking about how I was kind of embarrassed to show, like, my faith, and I was never really, I never was, like, 100% like a follower of Christ. I was a believer. I 100% believed in God. There was no doubt in my mind that he existed, that Jesus existed, that the stories were true. Now, mind you, though, like, up until about maybe a month or two ago, I hadn't read the Bible back to back, through and through. I'd started a few chapters of Genesis, and then I kind of went wherever. I don't know. I was hopping around, and it just really never resonated with me and, like, made sense. I think I was just disconnected. Like, I was just very disconnected. Have been for the past 3 years, really, since I got out of high school and came into college. That's when I really started just getting heavily into, like, sinning, and which is what I'm going to talk about today. And that's kind of when I started getting really bad depression and anxiety and, like, all of this stuff that I really didn't deal with much. I did deal with depression in high school. But before high school, I was a happy kid, you know, like, I was a happy person. I was always just, like, bubbly and, like, you know, whatever. And then I started going through these, like, bouts of depression, anxiety, and, like, I would just kind of lose my purpose and just not want to be on this earth anymore. And I was not in touch with my faith during these years. Like, I grew up in the church, basically. I went to church when I was a kid. Every Sunday we went to church. And then, you know, my family, as a lot of families do, once the kids start to grow up, you kind of don't necessarily go to church as much. And, you know, life happens, and that's kind of what happens. And then there's this disconnect. There's this disconnect from you and God. And there was a huge, huge, huge disconnect. Okay? And, you know, so I'm going through life, and I'm dating these guys, and let me put this out here before I continue. I'm going to be talking about things that are not meant for little ears. So if you have people who are under the age of 18 around you, please tell them to scat, unless you want them, you know, to hear about the birds and the bees. That's it. Just if there's little ears, you know, put them in the room. Okay, anyways. So I was dating these guys. I was, you know, having sex with them. I was a part of hookup culture. I smoked, vaped. I can't tell you what I didn't do. Like, I didn't do hard drugs. I've never done that. Never would. I had limits, but I still lived like this life. I was vaping, I was smoking, I was on all of these dating apps, and just like what was I doing? Like, really, I sit here and I think about it. I'm like, Kaylee, what were you doing? Because in my head, like, I was so sure that I didn't need a man. I was so sure that I wasn't looking for guys to try to fill this, like, void, I guess. But I think in a way that I was, because of my skin condition. And my skin condition put so much insecurity on me. And sometimes I just let this insecurity get to me, and I think that for me to, like, feel better, well, I don't know if this is exactly what I thought, but, like, I was just in this cycle of, like, dating guys and realizing that they're not the one for me, breaking up with them, finding another guy, realizing, like, it was just like I would believe the words over the actions. And I'm not like that either. Like, I'm very, very, very specific about my standards and what I look for in a guy, and I lay it out to them before we get involved. But also, in a sense, I did take a lot of stuff that I did not deserve at all, which leads me into my last relationship, which is exactly how this whole thing came to be. So let's talk about it. Now, first, let's talk about when the seed, which is what you'll hear a lot when pastors talk and just in Christianity, it's like there will be people in your life who will plant the seed, or who will kind of give you your first encounter, not first encounter, but like the encounter with God or with Jesus that makes you want to know more, that makes you want to change your ways just a little bit. So the seed was planted when I went to this women's conference with my mom, and it was January, February, it was like back then. Not back, it was like the beginning of the year. I went to this women's conference and had a great time, learned a lot. I felt like that planted the seed for me, because after that I was just like, wow, I really want to, kind of get invested in my faith again. Like I want to feel God, and so I slowly started to incorporate worship music into my life, and I was just kind of slowly taking my time to just bring faith back into my life and kind of give God control of my life. But I still wasn't at 100% control. Like I don't even think I was at 50. Like I was really just listening to worship music, and that, I'm going to tell y'all right now, you can listen to worship music, and you should, but that does not make you a follower. It can make you a believer, but it doesn't make you a follower, and those are two totally different things. And for the longest time of my life, I was just a believer. I believed, but I was not a follower. Now, this is where the story gets fun. All right, so y'all know I was in a relationship, and if you're new to this channel, I was in a relationship like a month ago. Maybe 2. I don't really remember. The details aren't important. But let me just tell y'all that when I was on this road, like I was starting to get closer and closer to kind of just like not pushing myself, but that step you take when you're just about to get to your faith. I was almost there. And then, I'm praying to God, and I'm just talking. I'm like, God, like, what do you have for me? What do you have for me? All of a sudden, I meet this guy through an app, okay? And we're calling, and we're talking like hours in a day. So I'm thinking like, heck yes, God sent me my man. Like, this is my husband. We met. Things were going great, and a month goes by, and, things were good, but there were some issues, and I was just a little confused. I was just kind of like, man, like, I thought this was someone who God sent for me, but now I'm just not sure. So I was like, one night, okay, he had left and did something that made me upset. And I was just upset, okay? And I was just like, what do I do? Like, I don't know if I can be with a guy like this. Like, I just don't know. And I was like, I just was desperate. I was like, God, I prayed and asked you if this is what you sent me. And if this is not the right thing for me, listen to me very carefully when I tell you exactly what I did. I got down on my knees, okay? I was down on my knees. I was crying. I had the Bible open. I had worship music going. I was like, God, if this is not the person for me, remove him from my life, because I know I don't have the strength to do it. I knew I didn't have the strength to break up with this person, because our ties were too much. Our ties were very, very much tied, and like, so it was hard for me, because in my head, I'm human. Like, I'm flawed. I have emotion. There's so many things that get in my way, and get in my way of good judgment, get in my way of knowing what's right or wrong, seeing whether it was God or whether it was not God trying to kind of divert me off this path. And looking back at it now, I am so easily realizing that relationship was to stop me from getting closer to my faith. However, it was the very thing that brought me closer to my faith, because after that night that I was praying and asking God, like, God, please just take this person out of my life if it is not meant to be. Mind you, we were still dating. Like, things weren't terrible. I was just so confused. I'm just like, I want to do whatever you have in store for me. And that's where I was getting to at this point. And like, throughout this whole relationship, I really was just kind of like trying to figure things out. And I was also seeing that the things that he had said to me weren't really true. Like, he was like, oh yeah, I love God, or I'm very religious, but I wasn't seeing him in his word, in his Bible, or just talking about God as much as like I wanted to. And so stuff like that was kind of like, like, I just had this feeling, like, I felt like I was being deceived. And so I prayed. I was like, God, like Like, I just don't know this person's true intentions. Like, please take him out of my life. Anyway, so, you know, a few days passed, and we had talked things through, so I thought things were good, and we were texting back and forth, and then all of a sudden, on a random, was it a Sunday, Saturday? I don't know. All of a sudden, I don't hear from him at all. I get this text in the morning, and then I send another text, and then a few days go by, and I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, I haven't heard from him. He usually calls me at night. He usually calls me in the morning. Like, there was a ritual. So I didn't hear from this, and I'm just like, what is going on? So I start calling him, like, y'all, this is fresh. So I'm just like, this still hurts a little bit. I'm not saying that this is like a pure, perfect, amazing story that I'm just like, yay, this got on. Like, this was still someone that I liked a lot, you know? But anyways. So, needless to say, I'm calling, I'm like, what is going on? Like, why aren't you answering me, you know? Not basically, ghost mode. I, like, never to hear from again to this day. And when I tell y'all the Tuesday that I remembered that a week ago, like, okay, so I had remembered. It took me a while to remember that I asked God to do this. Like, I was just, like, so confused. And I'm like, what? Because this was so out of character for this person. And then I finally remember that I literally asked God to remove this person from my life if it wasn't meant for me. And then he did. He did, y'all. He removed this person from my life. This made no sense. None of it added up. Because I knew this person for a whole month and a half straight. And nothing about their character said that they were going to ghost someone. Especially when you're in a relationship with, like, that's just not, you don't do that. At a certain age, you just don't do that. And it was just not in character. So I was like, this is God. Like, he said, okay, Kaylee, like, I'm taking him out. And you're going to listen to me now because I'm showing you my power. And he did. He showed me how he can literally make things happen when you ask for them. And oh my, y'all. After that, it's really just been me and God, me and Jesus, like, all of us. We're just, Holy Spirit, you know, we're just vibing. Because I don't need God to prove himself to me twice. That's all I needed. I just needed that. And so, after that, I was really just kind of like, I took the Bible home. Oh, also, I totally forgot to put this in there. But prior to the ghosting, I had let my boyfriend at the time know that I wanted to practice abstinence because I hadn't prior, and then after the night when I was just like, God, what do I do? God, what do I do? And I'm just like, I'm done being a part of hookup culture. I'm done giving myself to these men who do not deserve it, who are not worthy, and who are not just meant for me at all. Like, I'm done. Because I have so much more to offer than just flesh and bones, you know? Like, I am so much more than that. And so I told him this, and he was fine with it. But, you know, obviously got whatever, went in ghost mode. But anyways, to this day, I'm very firm on all of I'm very firm I'm not smoking. I'm very firm I'm not vaping. I'm very firm I'm not having sex. And I'm very firm right now I'm not even, like, acknowledging that men exist. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, no. If it's in God's timing, I'll allow it and I'll accept it and I will happily bring it into but I am not out there seeking. And that's the difference, because I used to be on this huge cycle of just seeking. For what? I was seeking everything else but God. Everything else but God, y'all. And that is just like, that blows my mind, but it also makes sense with the world that we live in because we have so many other things to seek. There are so many options that this earth gives us to just go out and do and just easily, like, not remember our purpose for being on earth. And that is, like, and just our purpose while living, you know? Like, the purpose I have now, because I am 100% full on following Jesus and his commandments and obeying whatever he has to say and just letting him speak through me and touch the hearts of however many people he wants to touch. That is, like, my purpose. That is what I feel like my purpose is. And I feel like God gave me all of these talents. And I've known, y'all, I have known since I was a baby that God played a part in my life. Because if you don't know my story, then you're about to find out. Because I was born in Haiti. I have a rare skin condition that makes me not able to withstand heat for long periods of time. Like, I get overheated, especially as a kid when the condition is really, really bad. It's not good. It's deathly. You can die. Like, literally, there's a certain age. After 3, you're good. But until then, like, you never know. Because you could get infections. You, like, all this stuff. So, me getting adopted and being brought to America when I was a year and a half was literally God. It was God. And if you hear the story, my adoption story, my parents weren't looking to adopt. They were not looking to adopt until my sister and I came to the world. You know what and then all of a sudden, my mom's mission trip that she was on, like this lady that she knew said, we have these twin girls, they're so cute, sent my mom a picture before they even put us on the orphanage website. And that's how we came to be in the family that we are. Now, every time I hear that story, and I get chills, with the personal, like, connection and just the personal touch that I know with my skin condition, like, I know how I feel in the heat, and I know how I feel in Florida, let alone a third world country where there's no medical, like, I wouldn't have even probably found out that I had a skin condition if it hadn't been for the fact that I got brought to America. So my whole life has been touched by God. And I have known this. And I literally just basically chose to live a life of sin, I guess. And I knew that. And the funny thing is that a lot of people say this. So if you have said this to yourself, one moment. The battery died. We're back. But if you have said this to yourself, like, I know I'm sinning. I'll just, when I'm older, I'll repent and I'll give up my sins. And that's fine, I guess. You can do that too. But why not start now? Why not feel good now? You know what I'm saying? Like, I did not feel good when I was sinning. It was not fun. And I wasn't doing it because I'm like, oh yeah, let me just disobey. Like, no, it's not that. You get caught in this like trope of what is the world, of what is the earth, of like a consumeristic behavior. I won't get into that, but if y'all want me to talk about it, I will, because being a consumer in America especially leads to sin, I believe. Because if you aren't intentional with what you're purchasing, I think it can change your idea of your needs, your wants. It can give your brain too much dopamine because you're making all these purchases. Y'all, when I tell you everything that I have done is different. Like, I just move differently now. I think differently now. I speak differently now. I look at people differently now. I treat people differently now. Like, it's just crazy how many things just change when you start to literally read the Bible. Read the Bible every day. If you just read the Bible every day, you're just starting to think and think and think and just let your mind go and go and go. And if you're curious about God, go to church, or even like talk to someone who you know knows God. Just be like, hey, like what is it about him that's so cool to you, And like, if someone sat there and asked me that, and I would just be like, man, there's so many cool things like that I've experienced since. Let me also point this out. I am baptized. I gave my life up to Jesus Christ officially. Like, I did the dang thing. I got baptized, and let me tell y'all, that was probably the coolest day of my life, because I did it by myself. My family was nowhere to be found. Like, not nowhere to be found, but like I'm in a different town than them. I'm by myself. I go to this new church. And, let me just tell you my baptism story, and I'll get back to how God changed my perspective. But we're kind of going to go back and forth, because this whole story is just like a hodgepodge of things. But basically, a week after, I knew I was going to church. I had been reading the Bible. I'm just like, I need to go to church. Like, I need to hear a pastor speak. I need to hear someone, and I had found this church that I thought was amazing. And so I looked on the church and I saw that 9 a.m. baptism. Okay. So I was like, let me go to the 11 service so that I don't have to feel like so I can get like an actual service. Like, I wanted to hear someone speak. Well, I heard him speak, that's for sure. And y'all, I did not show up to that church service thinking I was going to get baptized that day. That was the last thing I was going to do. I showed up in jeans, a cute little cardigan. Like, I had a full fit on, okay? And I'm sitting here, I'm at the top row, the top, tippity top, as far as I could get in that church and as far back as I could get in that church. I'm sitting there, and the pastor, he walks up and he starts talking about baptism, and he starts explaining what it means to be baptized, and he starts explaining the importance of baptism. And then, okay, so I have these questions start popping up, and I'm like, okay, but he answers the question. Then I think, okay, but He answers the question. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, like I have no more excuses. He just answered every single question. It makes sense. I'm like, I'm sitting here, I'm ready to give my life up for Christ. Why don't I just do it? Like, do it. Go get baptized. God says we should all be baptized. Like, he assumes that we're baptized. So I hadn't been baptized before. I was dedicated by my parents, but I never have made the personal choice to get baptized. Yeah. So I made this decision. I walked down, the pastor asked, if you feel moved, if God's calling you to get baptized today, then please just come down. We have shirts, t-shirts ready for you, and we're going to do this. And man, it's crazy, y'all. So I walked down there by myself, and there was this other family that actually had shown up, and I don't know why, like I just kind of, well, they were sitting in front of me, and then they moved, and then they came down too to get baptized, and I was just like, wow, like you never know someone's story. You never know who has or hasn't been baptized. Like, you could be going to church for a year straight and still not had gotten baptized. It like, it's all in God's timing, really. But I felt like that was my time. Like, I felt like God was literally saying, I'm giving you all the answers you need to do this. And the funny thing is, y'all, I'm still me, because in my head I was like, oh, my hair is gonna get wet, and I was like, oh, but I didn't wear the right outfit for this. But then I was like, Kaylee, no, it's not about that. It's about you, Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit. Like, that's it. It's not about your hair. It's not about your clothes. All of those things are just earthly possessions that you do not care about. And the more and more I read the Bible, the more and more I'm starting to not care about things that I used to care about. Like, oh, don't even get me started on money, y'all. Don't even get me started on money. I'm not going to talk about that, but, well, maybe I should. I don't know, like, I just see things differently. I see money differently. I see the things that I have differently. I want to, like, go through my closet and just donate a bunch, because, first off, I don't even wear half of it. Second off, I was literally just in such a consumeristic behavior that I would just buy. And now that I have literally stripped myself of social media, I've stripped myself of allowing impulse buys. I've stripped myself of just going shopping just cause, like, all of that stuff is just so meaningless to me now. Like, there's no point. Like, what's the point? If it's not doing anything to further my faith, if it's not doing anything to further my relationship with God, and if it's not doing anything to help people find Jesus and help people find their faith and just, be good humans, really, then I don't need it. I don't need it. And I'm sitting here looking out around my room, and I'm just like, man, I have so much more than I need. I am so blessed. I am so blessed by everything. With everything, I've always been so blessed. And I've always known that, and I've always appreciated God. It's not like I was just, like, on this whole rebellious, like, let me just, I definitely, I prayed. I knew my blessings. Like, I was very much aware that I was very blessed. And I always have been very much aware of my blessings, but it's just, like, different when you are, like, when you give your life and your control. It's literally just giving control over to God and to Jesus and to the Holy Spirit and just saying, take the wheel, because I'm done. That's literally what I said. I was like, obviously, I'm not doing it right. It's like, it's all on you. Because, y'all, when you, like, think about it, okay? Because God, like, humans are flawed. We are not perfect. We are not supposed to be making all of these, like, decisions by ourselves. We're not supposed to be indulging in all of these things that the world says is amazing, or that the world says, yeah, you need this, or yeah, you need that, or we're not supposed to be after this, like, hustle mentality of hustling towards making money. No, I was that person. Literally 3 months ago, I was in such a hustler mentality. I was like, let me get as much money as I can. Let me make as much money as I can. Like, so I can get to this point in my life where I have all the money and I can just buy whatever I want. That is such a consumeristic behavior, and that is why I'm telling you it leads you to sin. Because I'm allowing myself to indulge in all of these things, all these wants and needs that I don't. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be able to just get whatever you want when you can, because you can. You know what I'm saying? Like, that trains our brain to allow us to literally give ourselves what we want because we can. And it's just like, yeah, I could go chase the money. For what, though? Like, as long as I have enough money to feed myself, I'm good. I don't need anything else. As long as I have enough money for food, for water, for gas, I'm good. I am good. Everything else on top of that comes my way, I see it as a blessing. And that's where I'm at right now. And I feel so much peace and happiness, y'all, after being baptized, after just reading my Bible every single day. I still am. I still will. And I totally recommend, if you haven't picked up the Bible and you have been raised on Christianity like I was, and you just didn't know God as well as you should have and as well as you wanted to, I just totally he just spoke to me. Corinthians. So Corinthians is what you should read first. I don't think you should start in Genesis, because I think all of us, when we're going through a faith, like basically rebirth, is when we're at our lowest point in our lives, or just a lower point, and we're kind of feeling desperate, and we're feeling out of control, and we're feeling like we just can't do it alone. Read Corinthians, because I think that, let me make sure that I'm right on this, because I have my Bible right here, but I'm almost positive God just said Corinthians to me, and he knows what he's talking about. That's what popped in my head. Trying to find it. Hold on. Matthew, James, Luke. Give me a second. Give me a second. Why am I tripping? Am I tripping? Y'all, I was not tripping. That's the New Testament. Okay. So I totally recommend, this is what my mom told me too. She said, read Corinthians. It's the best. I think Corinthians is a great way to start off on the Bible. The Bible is very intimidating, and I totally get it. And I was the same way. I was like, I started off Genesis. I was like, this is kind of boring. Like, that's literally what I said. I was like, this is like, okay, like I knew God created the earth in 7 days. Like, I knew all that stuff. So I started reading Genesis. I was like, this isn't what I'm looking for. Like, I want advice. I want to know why I should be doing these things. And then as I started reading Corinthians, I just let my mind go. And I let my brain ask all these questions. And if you are lucky enough and blessed enough to have a Bible that has like this, that has like a table of contents in the back, you can just literally look up all of these things that you have questions about. I'll look up and I'll be like, okay, let me read about selfishness. Let me read about sex. When I was battling why I should be abstinent, because mind you, I was literally living this whole life that I believed that abstinence like was not a necessity. I believed that, like, I just had all these different things, and I'm literally going through it to this day, trying to untrain myself and untrain my brain of the things that I had once believed, and of the opinions I once had that are now totally, completely different. And yeah, so I totally recommend Corinthians to you guys if you want to, read in the Bible. And it's funny too, because Corinthians is like halfway through the Bible. Like, but you don't need to know, like, there's some characters that'll pop up that will be not familiar, but you don't need to know like the characters yet. You just need to know God's heart and like what he was trying to do with these people. Read about Israelites, read about Joshua. I'm reading the book of Joshua right now, and I think, oof, that's good. Joshua's good, Matthew's good. We read Timothy today in church. 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, that's what I'm going to read next. I read that this morning. So I hop around, y'all. There's no rules to the Bible. Read the Bible however you please. You don't have to read a book front to back, especially not the Bible. With all those chapters, each chapter is different. And each chapter teaches you a different thing. And the Bible is always going to tell you something different as you're going through your life. And I think that's another thing that a lot of people, a lot of Christians to this day forget, is that you have to be in your word. You have to be in your Bible. God is not just going to, this was another one, y'all. Learning about active faith, being active in your faith. You have to pursue God. You have to seek him. You have to be wanting to see his blessings, because you could think like, okay, take me for instance. If that person ghosting me, I could have just been like, wow, that person's like a butt. That is not a good person. And just left it up and blamed it on their character and just kind of went about my life, restarted the cycle, got back on a dating app, found another guy, and went through the same thing again. Like, I could have done that. But I chose to see God in that situation. I chose to remember that I asked for this, and I chose to say, this was you. I'm not questioning it. I'm giving my life up. Like, that was my choice. And that's the thing that I think people realize, is that you have to make a choice. God isn't just going to force it on you. He's going to show you his ways. And after that, you can make a choice whether or not you want to follow 100% completely in his lead. And the way I look at it is, this world is filled with so much sin, so much depression and hurt and anxiety. And there's just so many things that we go through in this world. Why do you want to do it alone? Like, why do you want to do it alone? You shouldn't want to do it alone, and nobody wants to do it alone. And I feel like that's why we get to this point in our lives, which is like where I'm at, like 21, I'm going through my 20s, where we're like trying to figure out our lives, and we're trying to figure out what our purpose is, and we're trying to figure out, are we gonna get married? Like, all this stuff is going on. And girls, I know you. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I'm like, God, when can I be a wife? Like, that's what I want to be. I just want to be a wife. But I had to sit down with myself. I want y'all to hear this. Hear me loud and clear when I say this, especially for the women who are watching this. But I had to sit down with myself, and I said to myself, Kaylee, if you want to attract a godly man, you have to be a godly woman. Yo. When I said that to myself, I was like, girl, like, okay, like, you have to be what you want to attract. You can't expect, like, I cannot expect to attract a godly man when I was still vaping, smoking, and doing all of these things that were not of what God called us to do. I was attracting exactly what was hurting me. I was attracting sin. And so when I got rid of sin, it's like, wow, I feel so free. I have all of this like guilt just off of me, and God is so good that he forgave me for everything that I did, for all of my disobedience. And he literally, God will just like blink, and he's like, I forgive you. I forgive you, and I want you here, and I want you to be a part of this kingdom, and I want to meet you in heaven. And that's all he wants. And when you start to remember that this world and this earth, this is not forever. This is not your forever home. And after you die, you go to either heaven or hell, if that's what you believe. And that is what I believe. If that's what you believe, and you realize that every day is not like given to you, anything can happen. Man, when you put it that way, like, I feel like you have no reason not to follow. You know what I'm saying? But I get it, y'all. I get it. There are so many Christians out there teaching wrong faith. There are so many people out there giving Christians a bad name. There are so many people out there giving following God just like a bad look because they're not Christians and they're not followers. Whatever. The point is, it's just like we all have phases of our faith, you know? And the first phase is to believe. Like, the first step is to believe. The second step is to give up control. That's all it is. It's just giving up control. And once you kind of let go, which y'all, I'm telling you, it was the hardest thing for me because I love to be in control. I love to just be like, all right, what's next? Let me plan a schedule. And I still do. I still have my schedule, but it's not so constrained. Like, it's not so, man, I wanted to be married by the time I was 22, which I did, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. I'm 21, I'm gonna be 22 in the next like 6 months. I don't think I'm gonna get married in the next 6 months. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm okay with that though, because I'm on this amazing like walk and path with God, and I'm in this season of just waiting and hearing and listening and opening myself to him and Jesus and the words and just everything, y'all. So anyways, I'm just so happy that I was able to sit here and tell you guys my story and about my walk with Jesus and faith. And I really, really hope, well, I don't hope, well, I do hope that this encouraged you to maybe ask some questions and get a little bit curious about who God is. And if this video was just the seed being planted for you, then that's all I can ask for. Alrighty, I have filmed enough on on this video. I could go on and on, but we're gonna keep doing videos like this where I just sit down and I'm gonna talk to y'all. And it's not just gonna be about my faith. It's gonna be about what I've learned through my mindset, which is something I really want to talk to y'all about, is getting your mindset right and kind of untraining yourself to unlearn these habits that we have been taught through the world and through social media. And I just want to promote y'all to just kind of clear your brain and to give yourself just like a week of a detox, you know. And you might think, oh, but I can't, oh, but I can't, oh, but you can. You can, because these aren't things that have meaning. Like, Instagram doesn't matter. Facebook doesn't matter. YouTube doesn't matter. Like, none of this matters. None of this is like, I'm just on here now just to be like, here I am. This is my life. I am a child of God. This is how I live my life as a Christian. I'm going to make mistakes along the way. I'm not perfect. I'm flawed. God said it in the Bible, but he's perfect. And he is here to literally, like, I don't know, like, mend himself in the broken pieces of what is humanity. He is what makes us whole. And that is what I found out over the past couple weeks during my testimony. Oh, that was a lot. So, yeah, if you're new here, subscribe. Y'all know what you're getting. You're getting Christian content now. And if you don't resonate with my content anymore, that is perfectly okay. I will not be upset if you want to unsubscribe. I just, I want a nice little community here. And if you have any, like, scriptures to comment down below, please do. The one that I always keep in my mind, which is one that my mom literally spoke over me since I've been a kid, is I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Or through Christ who strengthens me, whichever. But that has always been my go-to saying. So yeah, that's what I'm going to close this video out with. Hope you guys have a beautiful Tuesday or whenever you're watching this video, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.